first question is, was the Tower of Babel or Babel a literal structure or was it symbolic? If yes, what did you say about sophistication of the ancient people? My view is that the Tower of Babel was literal, that they actually built this structure. Oh, wait, not on? Okay, I turned that on. So let's get the PA back on. There we go, PA back on. So was the Tower of Babel literal or structure or symbolic? And if yes, what does it say about the sophistication of the ancient people? My view is that it was literal. They were building an actual tower, not because they trusted God, but because they didn't trust him, and they were unifying again in their rebellion against God. And the sophistication, I think they had quite a great sophistication. Think about our intelligence today. These people were still very, very close to the Garden of Eden. The lives were still hundreds and hundreds of years. They could pass their knowledge on to generations below them. I think they had quite a bit of sophistication and intelligence. So I have no doubt in my mind that that was what was going on. Do people still do the tabernacle celebration in the New Jerusalem? So I'm not sure if they mean the sanctuary services or they mean the Feast of Tabernacles, but either way, both of those Old Testament things were symbolic of an eternal reality. And so no, we won't do symbolism. We will do the reality to which the symbolism pointed. We will actually live with God. So the tabernacle service we tabernacle in nature with God, which is symbolic of a new heaven and a new earth, a Eden coming back down to earth, and God brings the New Jerusalem down, and he actually governs the universe from earth. And so we actually tabernacle or dwell with God for all eternity. That is the reality. We don't need a ritual to tell us that it's one day going to happen. We'll be living it. Same thing with everything in the Old Testament sanctuary. It was all about the message of taking sinners who are alienated with God through the plan that God has. And if you go to our website and use the resource section and find the sanctuary seminar, you'll go through it. But the whole point was bring us back into at one-mit or unity with God. We will be at one with God. We won't need a symbolic system to teach us the plan. We will be living the reality. So no, I don't believe we'll be doing that there. We teach that everyone has free will to make choices. Romans 9:18 says otherwise. How would you explain that? We just actually explained that in class. So if that didn't answer the question, then send us a message later. What is your personal spiritual discipline of study? Specifically, do you read a passage, write the application, find a validation through academic articles or personal development books for more practical steps? Thank you, Dr. Jennings. You are an awesome role model. So I don't have a structure that is some type of a bullet point, boilerplate thing that I do. My whole thing has always been a journey towards knowing God more. And so that is the theme. How do I know God more, his will more, understand his designs more? And sometimes it might be reading a psalm and meditating on the psalm and the meaning. Sometimes it might be a theme. I remember I spent several years studying out, and then I would, if you would look at my computer and some of my documents, I have thick files full, where I've thematically gone through a theme, like maybe, well, what is actually the significance of the seventh-day Sabbath? What is its real purpose? Why was it created? And I might spend years studying that theme and researching all types of articles and resources and integrating and synthesizing those together while I'm also studying other stuff, just continuing to grow and advance in that. So I don't have a structure that's some type of a boilerplate thing. It's really a journey and different questions that come along, different challenges that other people might throw at me might trigger and inspire me to go hunt that down and research that out for answers, and that's kind of what motivates me. If you have time, could you explain the mediatorial ministry of Jesus? Desire of Ages 568 says, he is today standing at the altar of incense, presenting before God the prayers of those who desires his help. I'm sure Jesus doesn't have to convince God to love us, and he references John 16:27. Yet most Christians lean towards this thinking that Jesus has to convince the Father to do something that he wouldn't otherwise do. That's correct. Most do that. And so, first off, the quote that you quoted is symbolic. I personally do not believe that there's a little dark room with a little gold stand burning incense going up in smoke, and Jesus is there, maybe with a little blower, a little electric fan blowing smoke back towards his dad with prayers in them. This is symbolic. This is symbolic. It's not literal any more than when he said, "Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part with it." It's all symbolism. What's this symbolism about? And this goes back again. Go listen to our explanation of the sanctuary. The holy place is a metaphor for the church. The golden altar is a metaphor for the heart of the believer.
The fire is the Holy Spirit, which is to indwell the believer. The incense are the prayers that we give, and they're made fragrant by the Christ-like character being reproduced within us. This is metaphorically speaking that Christ is standing at the altar of your heart, interceding in your heart to make you more loving and gracious, to remove the defects of character out so that you will be presented to the Father free of the selfishness and fear that we were all born with. So that's what the metaphor is really about. It's not actually to influence the Father, it's to prepare us to meet the Father, is my understanding. But it's all symbolic. It says, can you blog about sleep, staying asleep, so forth and so on? I don't know that I don't actually have a blog about sleep. I have a couple of podcasts, I think, about it. And then in my book, The Aging Brain, which we gave away, I can't remember which month we gave those away, but if you have the Aging Brain book, there's an entire chapter in The Aging Brain about sleep and sleep hygiene, sleep health, what happens in sleep, how memories consolidate in sleep, things that interfere with sleep, what normal sleep looks like. So I'm not going to go into that right now, but maybe that would be a good blog for some time in the future. Dr. Jennings, love your teaching. What is your view about the perpetual treatment of men to women? Adam accused Eve for the sin in front of God. Abraham did not care that Sarah was subject to sexual assault when he offered her to Pharaoh to save himself. God appears to have no rebuke on men mistreating women. I would disagree with that. In these particular cases, how God dealt with Adam at that time, he did not in any way excuse Adam and buy into what Adam was doing. It was an evidence of Adam's selfishness that he did this, immediately willing to blame Eve for his own, but God still holds Adam accountable for his own actions and conduct. He doesn't get a pass. He goes, oh, you're right, boom, she's out of the garden, you get to stay. That's not what happened. His condition was changed. He's still struggling with fear and selfishness. He still suffered the consequence of what sin does in his life and his heart. Abraham did not have peace and did not have more joy and did not have more health and did not have more happiness with his wife and Pharaoh's harem for those days. I can promise you he was not a well man. And he also had to be confronted, and this is ultimately my view as to why he was asked to sacrifice Isaac. Because he struggled with fear and self-protective mechanisms like this that you see, which is an evidence of the fear and selfishness with which he inherited, and we all inherit, and that he was still struggling to overcome. And this is why God gave him the challenge at Mount Moriah, was to allow him to make a decision. Will you trust me with the thing most precious in your life or not? And so I don't see these guys getting passes here. I see God working to heal the heart rather than simply chastise behavior. And that's the big problem with many people. They want to chastise behavior and set rules rather than fix heart problems that lead to these things in the first place. Some believe that the COVID shot is gene therapy and not a vaccine. We see now that our previous liberties, jobs, travel, buying, selling are contingent on getting the shot. Will you discuss the biblical and design law elements of this? Very interesting. I won't go into all the details about it. I will tell you just some things that I think would be proper to think about. First off, there are a lot of questions that are righteous to ask and to discuss that in a normal, non-political environment would be discussed. And if you put this aside and talk about any other health condition, questions that are asked would not be ridiculed. But in this health condition, people ask questions. They just want information. They are shut down and they're threatened, and that should raise a flag to everyone. Something's odd here. Something strange. But there's a whole lot of lies that have been told, and this is part of the process I think is going to result in a crashing house of cards coming down. First lie that was told is this was a natural virus. It is now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt this was an engineered virus in a lab with gain of function added through human manipulation of the coronavirus. And there's plenty of places online you can go and get this documented. It's not really in dispute anymore. Other types of lies. Last year, just to show how people's minds get manipulated through this process, last year I wrote 2 blogs in which I referred to the virus as either the China virus or the Wuhan virus. And on our Facebook page, a group of people attacked me for being racist for saying such a thing. If you were one of those people, and you're probably not watching anymore because it's too intense light for you to watch, but if you are watching, I would say to you, and anybody who tells you that, just ask the question. Since then, there's been various variants that have come. There's the UK variant. There's the South African variant. When you heard about the UK variant and the South African variant, did you immediately go, oh, we're being racist against those British people. We're being racist against those African people. If you did not, but you do think the China virus is racist, you've been manipulated. Your mind is not yours anymore. Somebody else has programmed your reactions, and you don't even realize it. That's just an evidence-based example of how people are being propagandized and programmed. Other lies. Dr. Fauci in February of 2019, along with multiple CDC officials, told the community and the people that community mask wearing had no effect on viral transmission. There was no need to do it. And in fact, multiple studies, multiple outcome-based studies have been done prior to 2019 that all confirm his initial opinion was true, that wearing masks in the community has no benefit on viral transmission. Multiple ones. I got those in one of our blogs, 5 or 6 studies that have been done that actually look at viral transmission rates, not this other stuff that have been done since then is not actually looking at disease transmission. But in April of 2019, Fauci and CDC officials began stating that mask wearing actually protects you in the community from viral transmission. So either he's lying in February 2019, or he and the CDC are lying in April of 2019.
This happened in 19?
Excuse, I meant 2020. I'll take that back. Thank you, 2020 I meant to say. Thank you for correcting me on that. 2020. We all know if we actually watched any type of professional sports, like professional or collegiate football, tens of thousands of people every week sweating, grabbing, breathing over each other with no mask on, and there were 0 deaths from doing that. 0 deaths. The evidence demonstrated that, in fact, masks were not necessary in a community setting to keep people from getting the virus and dying. But another lie. It's important to say 6 feet apart to stop the spread. That's actually in multiple studies now demonstrated that you get no benefit additional 6 feet apart than you do it 3 feet apart. 3 feet is equally effective in a community setting to keep you safe from the viral transmission. And most people in social settings of non-intimate nature, 3 feet is your comfort zone. People that step inside 3 feet, you actually become uncomfortable if a stranger steps inside 3 feet. So it's just normal human interactions keep you safe, according to at least 2 outcome-based studies. It's necessary to wear a mask outdoors. CDC is still sending this mixed message. As of last week, the CDC website said, if you've been, quote, vaccinated, and everybody you're with has been vaccinated, you can now ride your bicycle outside without a mask. But if you're with people who haven't been vaccinated, you still need to wear a mask. Understand the contradictions going on. It's an assault on your mind. Here's another lie. Mask wearing does not drop your oxygen levels. My own sister was at an outpatient procedure, medical procedure in this city, in which during the procedure, sitting in a hospital bed at rest, they had a hospital-based oxygen, oximetry device on, and with the hospital mask on at rest, her oxygen levels kept dropping into the 80s. As soon as she took the mask off, right back into the 90s and normal. I can tell you personally that when I have worn a mask in stores and walking around, I get short of breath and have to stop and pull my mask down. It's a lie. Multiple pediatricians report, another one, masks have no negative effects on health. I can tell you, multiple pediatricians report that increased in upper respiratory problems for children wearing masks, including strep throat, but more importantly, serious mental health problems for children. Understand, children are primarily cueing on facial expressions, not verbal instructions. And when you put masks on, they can't see the smile, they can't see the affirmation, they can't see the concern, they can't see this, and so it disconnects them from their support system, markedly raising a sense of apprehension and anxiety and resulting in increased distress in kids, and we have the highest rate of suicidality in 12 to 18-year-olds in the history it's been recorded. But hey, masks don't do any harm. I'm going to skip ahead because the question about the vaccine comes up. I went on record about a month ago saying that my prediction is that there will be more deaths from the interventions than there will be from the virus. I still stand by that. Right now, at least one cancer society is reporting they're predicting over 700,000 cancer deaths from people not getting their breast screening, their prostate screening, their pap smears and stuff because of fear of COVID. They've stayed at home and not done this, and they're predicting over 700,000 cancer deaths. We have the highest rate of overdoses in the country in 2020 that's ever been recorded. Alcohol use is the highest it's ever been recorded based on alcohol sales, highest alcohol sales ever been. So on and on the problems go. Biggest lie, though, is this thing that people get injected to them is called a vaccine. It's not actually approved as a vaccine. It's approved by our government for emergency use order as an experimental biologic agent. That's its official designation in our country. I'm not making that up. You can check me out. All of them, every company, experimental biologic agent, not a vaccine. That has legal consequence to if you have a bad outcome, you can't actually apply to the the vaccine fund for a compensation. But you're also told things like, I just gave you the example about the bike riding from the CDC. If you've been vaccinated, fully vaccinated, all the doses they want you to get, you're not safe to ride a bicycle with people who haven't, according to them. Now, understand what the real immunization, here's a real one, polio vaccine. If you've gotten the polio vaccine and you're vaccinated, do you actually have to worry about drinking water that might have some polio virus in it? Or being around a child who's shedding polio virus? Do you have to worry about that if you've been fully vaccinated? No, you don't. You are not at risk. What is the message telling you that you still have to protect yourself even though you've been fully vaccinated? It's not a vaccine. It's an experimental biologic agent. Now, according to, I don't know if you know about experiments on human beings, which is what you've entered if you've been injected. You're in an experiment. And I just want to know, because I haven't gotten it, but I'm interested to know for the people who have, if you were informed according to the Nuremberg Accords. And the Nuremberg Accords, which were agreed upon after the Nazi experimentation on human beings, that all Western governments in the world have agreed to these accords, including the United States, but all of Europe and everyone else. I've got them here, and they're quoted out of the British Medical Journal from 1996. So in 1996, these were still in practice and adhered to by medical practitioners and adhered to by the standards of medical practice. And there are 10 elements to the accords. The first element, a voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, meaning an Alzheimer's patient cannot enter a human study. Keep going. Should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior forms of constraint or coercion. Are we having complete freedom of travel, complete freedom of economy, complete freedom of your person to not participate in this? Or are we being coerced? Interesting. And should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved to enable him or her to make an understanding and enlightened decision. So for those who've gotten this injection, I have some questions, because this is called standard medical practice, informed consent. We inform you of the benefits, we inform you of the risks, we tell you what we know, and you get to make an informed consent. That's just for medical treatment. It's actually a higher standard for an experiment. Isn't that right, Wendell? Well, here, let me see if you were informed of this, if you've been injected. Were you told that what you're about to get is not a vaccine, it's an experimental biological agent as approved by the FDA?
Yes. Yep.
Good. That without getting the experimental biological vaccine, your likelihood of survival of COVID is 99.7% or higher.
Yes.
Were you told that no previous coronavirus vaccines had been developed because in every previous study, the animals died from the vaccine, and we skipped the animal trials in this study? Were you told that?
Yeah. But this was a different type of vaccine for those studies.
Were you told that there's potential, if you're of childbearing years, of infertility? Were you told there's no long-term safety data? We don't know what the long-term safety data is. That because it's an experimental biologic agent, if you have a bad reaction, there is no liability direction for you to go. that the spike protein, which this experimental injection will cause your body to make, is not a natural occurring protein, but a synthetic protein that was inserted into the virus by a lab. And your body will now be making the synthetic protein.
It's against a certain protein. It's the foot protein.
You were told that your body has a defense to prevent foreign genetic material from getting into your body's cells and co-opting the machinery of your cells, and that the only way to get this injection to do what it's going to do is to trick your body's defenses by using nanoparticles to hide this RNA from your body. If they just gave you the RNA, the messenger RNA, your body would destroy it. It would never get to where it's going. So they have to use nanoparticles to hide it.
Pfizer and the Moderna had the nano.
Yep. Were you told that the therapeutics actually exist, like ivermectin, that block the ACE receptors and prevent the spike protein of the virus from entering your cells? And that you have the option of using ivermectin instead of getting this, and there's outcome data that shows that you will actually prevent it from infection if you do that. Were you given that information? Were you told there's no long-term safety data on what the nanoparticles will do in your body, and there could be autoimmune reaction to the nanoparticles? I mean, this is an experiment. It's not proven technology yet. Were you told that it's possible, not proven, but possible, that your body could actually start shedding the spike proteins and impacting the health of people in your home that have not been injected? Were you told there's no long-term data on whether your body will shut this messenger RNA down or not? Your normal messenger RNA, your body will shut down, that you produce, but we don't have long-term data on whether a synthetic messenger RNA, your body will identify and see and shut it down like your own RNA. So we don't know. It's unknown how long your body can use to produce these things. If you got the Johnson & Johnson injection, you're told that this is a DNA-based, not a messenger RNA-based, and it will actually insert itself into the DNA of your cells and will then instruct your DNA to make messenger RNA, and your DNA from that point on will be making the messenger RNA going to the ribosomes to produce these proteins. Were you told that? That's just the first Nuremberg Accord. Second, the experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, unprocurable by any other methods or means. I mean, we don't have ivermectin or other means. There's no other way. The experiment should be so designed and based on the result of animal experimentation and a knowledge of the natural history of the disease. It was a requirement before you experiment on humans, you must do animal studies. They were purposely not done in this. The degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved in the experiment. Well, if you're 40 years of age and younger, your survival from this is 99.997%. Seasonal flu is 75 times more lethal to you than is the COVID virus if you're 40 years and younger. Are we encouraging people to get this if you're children? Yeah, Wendell.
Obviously, I have much stronger feelings that are much divergent from yours that are being presented, but I would like to say that survival is not the issue here. Survival is not the issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is burden on health care and the long-term physical and mental outcomes of infection that happen in children and in adults.
Oh, I love the fact that you said that. That is the actual common approach or statement. Long-term effects. What are the long-term effects of the interventions we've done? Destroying middle America businesses, the economic reduction of income resulting in having to buy less healthy foods, obesity, diabetes down the road.
Those were not caused by the virus, by the vaccine. Those were caused by this isolationism and all that sort of stuff, etc.
But you're bringing up a moral principle in our decision making. We must consider the long-term effects of these things. And we're trying to reduce long-term effects by giving this while we're causing long-term effects by doing this. So I'm just pointing out that philosophical argument is fraudulent. It's not true. If they really were concerned about long-term effects, then we present the truth in love and we leave individuals free in their families and society to make the decision that is best in their family and circumstance, and we don't use these coercive pressures to try to bully the entire population down a path that has devastating long-term effects. Notice the long-term effects on our society that are happening right now. What's happening, has any major corporation been hurt by this that I know of? Pardon? Every major corporation. So Google has been hurt by this. Apple's been hurt by this. Amazon's been hurt by this. Zoom has been hurt by this. No, they've all gotten stronger. Home Depot, Lowe's. No. Who's been hurt by this? Small businesses have been hurt by this. Crushed by this. Why? What's the impact here? There's something much more sinister going on. If you have a biblical worldview, you're watching for it. It is about reasserting the aristocracies, understanding the aristocracies that our Constitution to protect us from were the big corporations and businesses of the old world in collusion with the state powers and religious powers. Our Constitution was to restrain those. We have been dismantling these liberties in our country. Anyway, my simple point is, and I respect people who think it through and make this decision, because I would never want to bully anybody to do it. But the point is, I have really experienced in our country an assault. Anybody asking questions, wanting outcome-based data, and there is no outcome-based data on this experimental biological agent. And I can tell you, I don't hear people using that language. I hear people using vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Did you get the vaccine? Did you get the vaccine? Did you get the vaccine? It's not a vaccine. It's an experimental biologic agent.
They can't say that out loud. If they did, people wouldn't want to take it.
Oh, get this. So it's a mind manipulation to convince you to do something without informed consent.
Exactly.
This is just verbiage. It's how we use verbiage. How do we use a short word to mean a long thing?
Perhaps.
But it doesn't
Well,
mean
you
the
have
same
that,
thing.
you have that in the legal language. Verbiage matters. You have the English language that's become a legal base.
I'm just saying, you've been in medicine a long time, Wendell. When have you ever seen medicine practice this way? Ever. On any other thing? It's not. If you tried to do this to your patient on some new orthopedic procedure and use these same methods, you would have your license yanked. No study would get approved like this. It just wouldn't happen. And all I'm saying is informed consent. God's methods are truth presented in love, leaving people free, having the open debate. So I invite the criticism, because you may refine some of my concerns here and give me some data that relieve my concerns. I would never shut people down from having a different view, but I don't feel like we have the free exchange of ideas happening like we used to have on this. Do you feel like we have the free exchange of ideas happening like we've always have?
In the medical community, I think there is a free exchange of ideas.
I haven't experienced that. You ask questions, it's I read, at least in the psychiatric journals, in the psychiatric articles, maybe in the orthopedic ones they're different, but in the psychiatric ones, there's nothing coming out in the actual official journal articles where you have these other voices just raising legitimate questions and asking like they would. If this wasn't politicized, if this was a new, for instance, when the Alzheimer's vaccine came out and they were trying to get a vaccine for the amyloid protein for Alzheimer's, there was all types of back and forth, benefits, side effects, risks, why you shouldn't or shouldn't use it. It was an open debate looking at the evidence and seeing where it led. That is not true. I don't see any of this coming up in the literature.
Well, when has there ever been a medical thing that has turned political
AIDS.
in history?
AIDS was-
But not to this
Not
extent.
HIV.
The government,
AIDS.
well, no, but even with AIDS, the government didn't require people to take injections and stuff.
No, but they required me to keep my mouth shut about any patient I took care of, and I could not talk to my colleagues about any patient that was positive. And I could, my practice was severely restricted as far as what I could and couldn't do.
And more importantly, the patient was not required to divulge, so they were exposing potentially healthcare workers, and they were not required to divulge.
Well, but that's what I'm saying.
Why
Nothing
are
was-
implants now not taken out of people, out of humans after they have fracture care? It all started because of AIDS.
But
I was
AIDS didn't
forced to
close
change
down
my practice.
businesses, AIDS didn't close down schools, AIDS didn't close down churches. It wasn't,
They did.
no, they didn't. Not like this.
You know what the first name for AIDS was?
No, I don't.
It was GRIDS. GRIDS, gay-related immune deficiency syndrome. The name was changed because it was considered pejorative, because of one class of the populace thought that it needed to be, it would be pejorative against a certain group of people.
So back to the, we're gonna close. I don't have all the answers on this, folks. I have questions. We shouldn't criticize people who have honest questions. We shouldn't demonize people. We shouldn't also demonize people who feel it's in their best interest to pursue a certain route of treatment for them or their family. Support that. But we should give informed consent to the best of our ability with the knowledge that we have, with unfolding evidence that's coming forward, and leave people free. This whole thing that I just went through is not about convincing people one way or the other, except for the question of, do we feel like we actually have the free exchange of ideas? Whether those particular questions have answers yet, well, I can tell you we don't. We don't have long-term data because it hasn't been long-term yet. You have to wait for the data. Maybe it'll turn out to be that every one of my questions are resolved righteously and there's no safety data. But remember, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, when it came out, you were all told completely safe. It's safe. No long-term health problems. They pulled it off the market already because there's bleeding issues related. It's not safe. We didn't know it. But these allegations and claims, that's what they are. They're claims without evidence. And we should be very, very, very concerned about accepting claims without evidence, even if they're well-intended claims. And that's all that I'm saying. And so I support people's individuality to make their own decision. That's autonomy. It's the philosophy of autonomy. The other philosophy that's happening in our society is the philosophy of paternalism. It's the philosophy where somebody in an elite somewhere, whether they're a doctor, whether they're a politician, whether they're a religious leader, knows better than the individual and makes a decision for your best interest and inflicts it or enforces it upon you and doesn't give you liberty to decide. That's paternalism. That's the elite ruling class telling the masses how to live their life and what they should do. I resist paternalism and I promote autonomy. So I am all about people being free to make up their own decision, but that requires the most information and the most healthy exchange of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, and I will, in that marketplace of ideas, and I can tell you as a psychiatrist, having that kind of discussion with my colleagues at many medical meetings have had my ideas challenged and corrected, which helped me become a better psychiatrist. It's okay. But if you can't have that exchange of ideas, you can't really grow and challenge. And so that's the point of what I said, not any particular point that I read. Gracious Father in heaven, we thank you that you are the creator of all reality and the God of truth and love. And this is obviously a very emotional issue for many people and a concerning issue. And we just ask that your principles would come to bear in all of our hearts and minds, that we simply respect each other, present the truth, be open to hear truth, and leave each other free and are sensitive to see the movements happening afoot that you told us would happen at the end of time, where governments would become less and less respectful of our liberties and freedoms and be more coercive. And we show us the path to walk that we can be most redemptive in bringing your principles into people's lives. We pray in your holy name. Amen.